Growing from seed is one of those things that I'm asked about on an almost daily basis, and it's a thing I love talking about because it's come through a lot of trials and tribulations. To start seeds properly, you need a lot of patience, and a good seed starting mix doesn't hurt at all. I'm going to walk you through everything I use, what I love about it, and also what hasn't worked out super well for me. When you're first starting out, you might come across those plastic flimsy seed cells that every nursery sells. Don't buy them. You'll squish them and break them in a season or less, and all it's going to end up with is wasted money and more plastic going into the landfill. What I really love to use now is these silicone seed cells from Seedlings. They're 100% silicone, which means you can just throw them into the dishwasher at the end of the season and completely sterilize them, which is so useful to prevent any disease or funny kind of business in that regard. I most love these 10 cells because they have this hole at the bottom that is the perfect size for a Sharpie to pop through. So once the seedling is ready to transplant, all you do is stick the Sharpie up there and pop your seedling out and you're ready to transplant. I also frequently utilize these 4 cells, which have these special air pruning slits at the side. This is good for plants that germinate really quickly, like cucumbers or beans. Today I'll be utilizing the 6 cells, which is a bit more of an economical option from them, but still works out fantastic and has this delightful range of color to it. Equally important, if not even more so, is a great seed starting mix. And you'll see a lot of people germinating in different mediums. You can use coconut coir, you can even germinate directly in compost. But I find that a light, fluffy seed starting mix will be worth every penny because it'll be so much easier for seeds to develop their roots in a light, fluffy mix as opposed to dense and very bricky soil. You can absolutely fill up seed cells by dumping soil into them, but I find it's just easier to put the cell into the bag and scoop soil onto it. That way you can gently tamper it down, and if you have any soil going over the edge, it's not getting wasted, it's just going back into the bag itself. Much easier, much less wasteful, and you get to have a little bit of fun while you're in the process. In addition to the cells, you want a really sturdy 10-20 tray. You can find super flimsy ones in the same place that you'll find the flimsy cells, but it's a thing worth investing in because you'll use it season after season, and you'll be able to lift all your seedlings in one go, and you will be grateful for that. Another important element to all of this is check the dates on your seed packs. They'll be packed for a year or a season, so if you want the best germination odds, get seeds that are rated for the year that you're germinating in. You can absolutely use last year's seeds or even seeds up to 5 years ago, but just know that if you're dealing with something particularly finicky like a chocolate habanero, it just may not be worth all the effort, so make sure you've got good seeds. What you want to do is fill all your seed cells, and then once you see a little bit of moisture popping through, aka they're a little bit darker at the top as opposed to this lighter brown, you're ready to go and can start planting your seeds. It's very important to notice the orientation with which you plant seeds, especially in a cell like this. The easiest thing obviously is to fill an entire cell and just label it as such, but in these instances where I'm doing 3 per row, I'm labeling it and organizing it as such so that when I look at it later, I'm not confused as to how many I did of each. It's just a nice clean row, and that's that. We're going to add some chocolate habaneros. These are perhaps my favorite pepper, but unfortunately they are also the hardest thing to germinate of anything I've ever grown. Last year, it took 6 months from first putting the seeds into a cell to getting a final harvest of the first pepper. They are worth it, but boy are they tedious and requiring of a lot of patience. I forgot to mention it earlier, but as soon as you fill the cells with soil, you should fill up a tray with water and place the cells in it to hydrate from the bottom. Now let's actually talk about seed spacing. As far as placing the seeds in the cells go, you want to check out what the back of the seed packet says for depth, but I like to surface sow them and then gently press them down a little bit. In most cases, I'll put 2 to 3 seeds per cell and then either thin them down to the best one or separate them, though if I'm being honest, it's almost always the latter. Some seeds are particularly annoying to separate out, like basil or tomatillos, and in those cases I'll just gently sprinkle the seeds onto the surface, so it's best to preserve my sanity. Larger seeds like fava beans or beans in general should only be 1 to 2 seeds per cell, and oftentimes can be directly sown into your garden if the season is right. Quick germinators like tomatoes or cucumbers should also be only placed at a ratio of 1 to 2 per cell, as you'll want to transplant them quick and the germination rates tend to be so good that you don't need that extra insurance. I've got all my seed cells full of seeds now, so I'm going to top off any seed cells that are a little bit low in soil and then mist any that are still a little bit dry on the top. Once your seed cells are fully hydrated, I really recommend draining off any excess water because they've already got everything that they need. It's at this point that you really want to feel the weight of your seedling tray plus your seed cells when fully hydrated. You should know what this weight feels like, and when it feels much lighter than this, you know you need to water your seedlings, but if it feels heavier than this or about this, don't water them yet. The last thing we want to do is add a humidity dome. I've gone back and forth on this over the years, but I think it really helps difficult seeds to germinate. Make sure you crack the top, and once the seeds have popped through the soil, you can take it off. If you live in a warm climate or it happens to be summer, you can do this outside, but if you're doing this in a colder season, you should take it inside and put it on a heat mat under a grow light. A good heat mat and grow light will greatly improve your odds of germination and will really help out the whole process. This is an area where you shouldn't skip out, and buying a full powered LED grow light with a quantum board will keep you in business starting seeds for a very long time. If you have money like that, you can leave it on 24/7, but I like to use a little timer and do 18 hours on and 6 hours off. The tough reality of seed starting, though, is that sometimes things just don't work out. It could be bad seeds, it could be bad soil, or it could just be bad luck. Don't put too much stress on yourself, just be consistent, just be patient, and it'll work out most of the time. There are some seeds that are more difficult than others, and some seeds that are easier, and I think you should always balance the two. So if you're planting some super spicy peppers that take a really long time to germinate, maybe throw some beans in there or some tomatoes as well, so you get a few wins along the way. Doing a whole tray of super spicy peppers is a way to get disappointed pretty easily, but also could be a fun challenge for you if you like that kind of thing. I hope this has been helpful for you. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment on what you want to see next. Now, happy seed starting.